with week 3 of lockdown?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's a good sign. All right, let me start presenting. Where are we? There. Wait, is that right? Yeah, that's it. Okay. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so we got 13 people today with slight attrition so far. Maybe some people are going to join. Maybe people are feeling guilty about their homework. But yeah, glad you guys all came back anyway. Okay, so today, let's get things slowly started. So today I'm going to slow it down a little bit and take today as an opportunity for us to review what we did before. So there's not going to be so much new things in this lesson. It's going to be more repeating some of what we did last time. But we're going to do it while developing an app at the same time, a simple app. So hopefully it's going to be fun at the same time. And so we're going to reiterate the things we covered last time. We'll develop a complete working example of something that looks sort of like a real application. And very exciting this time, we have, I need to show you, the Wheel of Fortune. So the Wheel of Fortune is this spreadsheet with your names in it. And hang on, let me just switch to the correct account. Okay, and so I put your names in here, and then with a little bit of code, so this and this HTML, most of this which I got off the internet, I'm able to make something, a web app that looks like this. And right now, you're going to be impressed until you see what it's used for. So it's a Wheel of Fortune. And with the Wheel of Fortune, I can randomly pick people for live coding. So that's the Wheel of Fortune. All right, so the idea today is basically we're going to develop a complete app, and I'm not going to do the coding, or I prepared the code for you, but you guys can then share your screen and edit the code, and we'll figure that out as we go along. All right, so the app we're going to build is like this. It's a sort of a semi-real type of case. So we have the central spreadsheet, let's call it Q2 ad sales. And we've got this list of customers, how much advertising we've sold to them, but what our target is. And then we have these fictional salespeople who are responsible for hitting the targets. And so what we're going to do is generate an app that goes through this spreadsheet, check whether the salesperson has met their target for the customer, and then generate an individual report for each salesperson, which contains only how much they still need to do in ad revenue with that customer. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
good.
it does.
Actually, I've just realized I need to start. Oh yeah, use the Hangout chat if you like. I asked the wrong question. I should have said, does that not make sense to anybody? And then the silence works well. Okay, so I guess actually the first thing I should quickly do is make sure that you guys are all have access to the spreadsheet. I'll just copy your email addresses out of here. Right, so this is the Q2 ad sales sheet. I'll just paste you all there. Okay, just having a think. Just having a long think. A very long think, okay. All right, so but let me show you what we've got as the components of this. So you've got this central spreadsheet, and we're going to add code to this. Then we've got this spreadsheet, which is a template. It's super simple. It's just a title and then with these two columns. And what this application is going to do is copy this to make the individual spreadsheets for each person, and then fill it with some data. Okay, didn't like. Let's try one more time. Maybe, actually, let me just try. Are you guys able to access the spreadsheet already? You might already have permission. That's weird. Okay. Says some people couldn't get to this. Okay. Well, anyone who can't access it, just shout. I haven't quite figured out where the permissions are with Google Classroom. So this all the code is in the Google Drive under lesson 3. Okay. Excuse me 1 second, a frog in my throat. Right. So let's just do quickly one more thing. So we go into the script editor, and I just switch accounts again. Okay. Now, let's just make sure this is shared with all of you. Oh, wrong thing to. Okay. Where were we? Here. Nope. There. Okay. I'll send that one too, and we'll see what happens. All right. Okay, so let's jump back to the slide. So this is basically the application concept for what we're going to build today. Now, there's going to be some things we need to do along the way. So the steps in building this thing, first step is we're going to build a function just to get the list of the names of the people, the salespeople. So it's going to basically go through this column of the spreadsheet. And of course, you see that the names appear multiple times. We want a function that just returns each name once. Okay, so that's so that we can do things like generate a spreadsheet for each person. Then we're going to get another function to get the open sales targets for each salesperson. So again, that's going through this list, looking at what's been sold and what the target is, and then associating that with the salesperson that needs to work on that. Okay. Then we're going to have a function to copy the template spreadsheet into an individual report and fill it with the open sales figures. Finally, we're going to have then we have a function to copy the new spreadsheet to the right folder. That's a kind of a Google Drive detail. And the final thing is we're going to add a custom menu like this to the spreadsheet so that people using the spreadsheet have an easy way to be able to trigger our code. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to get done today, I hope. Quick thing, we're going to be using these parts of the Google Drive APIs. So when you go back, I've put links in the classroom to all the different things we're using in this lesson. But you can go and click on these links and you'll see the reference documentation for how to use these things. Okay, so let's dive into action. So the first thing we need to do is this function to get the unique names of salespeople. So let me just explain this quickly, and then we're going to spin the wheel of fortune. So what we need to do is create a function that first gets the active sheet from the spreadsheet. It gets a range of values. So this is column D between 2 and 14. And I think, Nadja, you were struggling with that this week. Note that there's a function called getValue, which would return only one cell. GetValues returns all the cells we've selected here. Okay, now a key thing to note when you call a function like this is that what it returns is an array of arrays. So this would just be like an array of single values. So this is an array of strings. But note that in this case, we had an array of arrays, and it's a bit misleading because we only select a single column. You've got an outer array here. It's these two square brackets. That's the outer array. And then within that, you've got a list of multiple inner arrays. But they're arrays that only contain a single value because we've only selected a single column. If instead we'd used a formula here like C2 to D14, that meant we would have selected all of column C and all of column D, then you would have arrays with two values in them, okay? So that's this notion, it's an array of arrays. And then we're going to create this unique list of names. Now, here I need to introduce this method of an array called index of. And what it does is it searches an array for a value and returns the index of where it found the value, the position in the array. But if it doesn't find it, it returns -1. So what this bit of code is doing is saying we've got this, we're going to create an array of names. We're going to loop through all of the values. And if we find the value in our list of, if we don't find the value in our list of names, that's what this is saying. If is equal to -1, then we add the name to the list of names. Now, just briefly to reiterate, this is the syntax you use to go through an array of arrays. So you have these two square brackets. Inside the first square bracket is the row that we're on. So that would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The second square bracket is the index in the inner array. Arrays always start from 0, so that's actually these values here. Okay? So this is basically how we create a unique list of names. Just one more thing. Today, for example, I had a session with Eleanor where we went through some of the code from the past because, you know, in these lessons, maybe I talk too fast or I go, things that are obvious to me may not be obvious to you. So if any of you want to talk one-on-one after a class or on a day, feel free, send me a calendar invite. Very happy to do that. Okay, right. Let's do the exciting part now. Let's spin the wheel of fortune. I'm not very good at spinning this thing. Okay, who's it going to be? It's going to be Emmanuel. Oh, no. Oh, Michael's not here today. Okay, let's try again. Actually, I could remove him from the list of, let's delete that row. Okay, and reload. All right. Oh. It's a little bit hard to spin this thing with a mouse. Okay. Who's it going to be? Ah, Pierluigi, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Fantastic. Okay, so
I'm the lucky winner of what exactly?
Yeah, so you're going to write some code. So
Okay.
the first thing to do is to open this spreadsheet and maybe share your screen. So I'll put the link to the spreadsheet here again.
So I just made a copy of the spreadsheet actually, right?
And maybe I'll send you the link to the slide as well. So on slide 7, you can basically copy the bits of code. Okay, so
you can probably see my screen.
Yes, perfect. So
Okay,
first,
cool.
maybe you could increase the font size slightly.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing is open the script editor.
Whatever, yes.
Okay, now, so this is, we're creating a function to get a list of names. I would say let's call this function get names. So,
Okay, so I have a question. Can I just freely code, or do you think I should stick to copy pasting from your example, because I might do things a little bit different. So just tell me what you prefer.
whatever you prefer. I mean, if
yeah, okay. I mean, I'm just used to get names, and it's a function, and I'm probably going with arrow function. I mean, that's what I mean.
No
way.
Definitely
No
not
way.
that.
Okay.
Okay, you know too much. So, sorry. I think for to keep it simple for the class, maybe you could call that use var rather than const.
Okay, but then you are asking me really too much. I'm sorry, but I will do it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so get active sheet, right? Should be something like this.
Yeah.
Get active sheet, and then.
And yeah, I think you've got a spreadsheet, not sprite sheet.
Spreadsheet, get active sheet. Sprite, sorry. See, yeah, you see, this is just something front-end people does, creating spreadsheets, and it's a different thing. Sorry, it's a spreadsheet, not sprite sheet.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So I now should get a range, get some data, and this data should be something like sheet dot get. How was that? Get values.
Or get range.
Get range.
So from a spreadsheet you get a sheet, and from a sheet you can get a range.
Okay, right. So okay, actually this is the entire spreadsheet. No, this is just my active sheet.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Okay. So out of this I should get the range. Let me check what's available here, because I don't really remember here. Okay, we have many different notations. We can use the one with the Excel-like thing and some other notations. So, okay. So I will use a string, right? And I should just give the top left and bottom right cell, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so let me have a look. So this goes from A2 and it goes to D14, the entire thing, I mean. So
but you
A2.
could, I mean, if,
yes?
Yeah, okay, yeah, you can do that as well.
So what are we trying to achieve here? A unique list of names, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so since I need a list of names, I might just extract that column into some other variable. Get range and check again. So this is going from D2 to D14.
Exactly.
Okay, so D2 goes up to D14. And actually, this is not unique. So this should be returning an array of strings, right?
Wait, it returns an array of arrays, though. You have to. That was the point I was trying to make.
Even if you just take one single column?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing that I would do here is to have a look at what I'm receiving, just to be sure about the format. So it was something like logger.
Yeah, capital L. It's capital
L. Okay. Because this is something which is not just plain JavaScript. And logger.
And then names. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. And then I want to log names. So I'm running this function and see if anything works. How do you bring up the logger?
You can either do it from the view menu or like control return or command enter, depending on whether you're.
Let's see, view logs. Maybe I should at least prevent uBlock origin from running. Wait. Sorry, I'm making some noise here.
We don't have access on your presentation, Harry.
Oh,
No. I have it. Sorry, I just switched me to a different account I have here, but now I'm back on the correct one. I'm sorry.
I'll share. I'll make sure you guys will have access to the presentation in the meantime.
What I don't see is the logger, and maybe some pop-up.
Okay, try again. View. So if you see, it should be command and return. You see, command enter. Try.
Yes.
I think you hit. There was a try. Just try command enter.
No, it doesn't work. I'm trying. And I also tried control enter, whatever, and also I cannot do it from here. So I remember last time I did something like I went to my projects, and actually in here I could find a logger. It's kind of cumbersome because you don't have it connected directly there. But from here, I think I was able to see, no, my executions maybe. No. Or
okay,
yes.
Maybe it tells you why. If you look at that message or click on that row, it may tell you why it failed.
There was a failure getting the log. I didn't even notice that. Sorry. Okay, no, it's not clickable actually. This means it's clickable.
Maybe this is.
I'm turning off all my extensions, so it's probably because of some extension, and I'm refreshing the page once again.
It's possible it could be a security permissions issue as well.
Okay. No.
Okay, it's having a bit of a think.
Do you have an idea why it is taking so much?
Actually, at the moment, no. Okay. One more time reload. I just explicitly added you as an editor, added you to the file.
Yes, but I made my own copy actually, so I'm not working on your file anymore.
Okay.
It just belongs to me. I can try and maybe copy this script directly on your file and see if it works any better. Oh, come on, switch accounts, I'm sorry. Okay, let me try.
Okay, that looks more promising.
Yeah, it looks much better already.
Okay. And then if you now command enter, you should hopefully see the.
Okay. Okay, cool. I see.
Okay, so right now it's a range object. If you add to the line above get values, you'll see the actual data. So get range dot get values. Yeah. Okay.
And when I hit Control Enter, I just open the logger. I'm not executing the code, right?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. So I first run it, and then I can bring up the logger and see what was there. Okay, so it's an array containing strings. Fine.
Exactly.
So what I need here is, first of all, since I have an array, I will make I just need an array of strings. So names strings equals string. Okay, name strings equal names dot get values. I would use map instead of a for loop. Can I, or should I make a for loop?
Well, one thing is that you're running on JavaScript version 5 at the moment.
No, I tried. It works actually. Everything ECMAScript 6 works here.
It probably doesn't anymore because I disabled.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so we make a for loop. So since var I equals 0, and then it must be lesser than. So actually, for me, the names here, I prefer to change this to names range, and then I'm doing something like var names equals names range dot get values, because it makes more sense. Now I'm just iterating over the values, and it's an I++. So wait.
You probably need a names.length in the for loop.
And then the current value is simply the names at the index of I, and it's my current value, and it's an array itself. So what I need to extract out of here, I can assume it's always there in the same format. So I'm not really validating the format. I'm just taking the first element. And this one will be a string. So once I have a string, I mean, I have different ways to see if it's unique or not. And actually, the best way here would be to just map everything into an array and then use that array to build a set, which is a data structure from ECMAScript 6. But you say it's probably not going to work.
Yeah,
so
I tried.
And then I need two nested loops, because for every item I'm trying to add, I shall check for every item that already added, if it's there or not. Then I could, add it if it's not there. Otherwise, I skip it, because it means it's there already. Or even better, instead of using arrays, I could use an object where the key of an object is basically unique by definition. So if I'm having my object, which is called names, and I'm pushing Pierluigi, then I'm trying to do it again, I'm basically overriding the previous Pierluigi. This is much more performant, and it's also easier to read and write. So if it's fine for you, I can make an object.
Okay, I mean, up to you. I've got a simple solution in the slides.
Okay, what's the final purpose of this? I'm sorry. Once we have the names, what we're going to do with those names?
So we're going to use it as the basis for generating spreadsheets.
Okay. So
I mean, at the moment,
I would go through the name. Through using an object is much easier. So what I'm making here is a new object called names obj. Maybe it's an empty one. And then what I'm saying here is simply I have now the value. We could just call this current name, which is the name I'm iterating over. And then I'm saying names object current name, which means I'm creating a key here. This is an object with the key named with the same value of current name. Equals, shall we store any value there, like how much money are they missing, or we do it later?
Right, I'd say let's do that later.
Okay, so I'm just initializing this to a null, and this is fine. I could initialize it to a 0 if it's maybe easier to understand. And so for every name, I just do this. And here, I can just try and log it first and see if we have something. Logger.log names object. And since this is a complex object, we might want to stringify it before trying printing it, because it could be very unreadable and very ugly to see. So let's see what happens here. Running, doing the logs. Okay, so these are the unique names. And it's instead of being just an array of strings, it's an object with names and empty values. It might be useful for later, I think. So at this point, I just want to return this value here, because this function with such a name should really just return a polished object that I can later build on top with some other function.
Okay, so I'm, okay, fine, cool. I'm gonna slightly hack your code in a minute, because for the sake of the lesson, I need it to work a certain way, but that's fine. So is there can we call keys?
Want to make an array out of that?
No, I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate your code completely.
Thank you. Make the people very important.
So I'm sorry about that. No, it's just for the sake of keeping it fairly quick today. So maybe just to explain what Pierluigi did there. So he created this names object is what you could call a hash or a dictionary, and it's a mapping of key to value. So what he did is he looped through the names. He created a key with each name and set it to a dummy value. It didn't actually need a value, but from there, it's a very fast and efficient way to get a unique list of names. I didn't want to do too much with objects so far because I haven't really introduced that to everyone. I tell you what we'll do is we'll call it. I'll rename your function PL get names so we haven't lost it.
No, but you can really delete it. Come on. I mean, I wouldn't write this anyway, so I'm not very emotionally attached to this. Don't worry, really.
And great job for coding under pressure while people are watching. It's not necessarily easy to do.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll quickly throw in the code from the slides. All right, and anyone have a question there while I'm quickly throwing this code together? But like any kind of basic levels of confusion to what we're actually doing here? Or so far, so good? Okay, right, so I'll go back to sharing my screen now, if I can. So well done to Pierluigi, the first winner of the Wheel of Fortune. And did a good job.
Am I still winning more toilet paper here?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of toilet paper to be won. Okay. All right. So we've got. Can everyone see my screen now? So this function here does more or less the same thing with a different approach, a slightly different approach in this loop to what Pierluigi was doing. And if I just create a quick function that we can test this with, I tend to do this with Google Apps Script, is just have a test function for doing things. So if I can do logger.log get names, and then I can run this function test, and what we should see there is it's returning a simple array with each name in there once. Okay, right. So now we have this function. So our first step of our project is complete. Maybe I'm going to jump in at the end. So the next thing we need to do is create a function to get the sales targets. In fact, maybe I think I'm going to take this one over because otherwise I think asking you to go through all of that code by hand is going to be tough. So we'll skip one round of the Wheel of Fortune and I'll jump in here. So let's call this function, what should we call it? Let's call it get sales targets. So, and what we do here is this is a function that takes a salesperson's name as the parameter and then returns their targets, basically. So we put in a return at the end, and I'll just explain this code quickly. Okay, so what this thing is doing is getting the active spreadsheet. It gets all the data out of the sheet. So with this get data range, get values. So get data range is a magic function that a sheet has, which figures out what data is in the sheet, and then it figures out what the the top left and bottom right cells are, and automatically selects that. If I was to put a value out here, the function get data range would expand all the way out here as well. Okay, so we're getting all the data into here. Then I use this trick.
I have a question about that quickly.
Yes.
So with that function, does that mean that if you add in more rows, like if you have sales reports and you're just adding rows and rows and rows below for each report that comes around, does that mean that it automatically updates?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so you don't have to like manually say the range is A2 to D10, and then you add another one and it's D11. You don't have to change that.
Exactly. So
okay, cool.
This using of like hard-coded cells is something that is for the sake of this example. Normally, you also have there are some. You can either use a function like this, but there are also some functions that will say get a row number dynamically, so it will find the last row in the spreadsheet, for example. So you can basically create these things dynamically, but depending on the amounts of data in your spreadsheet. We'll look at that in more detail in later lessons. But okay, so I've thrown away, what I do here is I got all the values, I throw away the column headings. So remember, this was where you take, let's say, the first card out from the bottom of the deck of cards. So we throw away the column headings. Then I initialize an array, an empty array called targets. And then what I'm going to do is loop through all the values that I just got from the spreadsheet. And what I do is I check if the value on row I in column 3 matches the name I'm looking for, then I'm good. Then that's interesting. So let's just quickly look. This is index 3. So in terms of the array, it's going to have this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and that's why I'm using here this number 3. So it's the third element, the value at array index 3. Then what we do is we take out the value of what's been sold and what the target is. Again, that's these two columns. And then we're going to see, is the target greater than the current value in sold? So I saw a question there. If you keep the column names, can you then access the column by column header? You can do that, yes, but you'd have to do it. It's a little bit more code to write. I mean, yeah, it's something where you would have to start doing kind of some dynamic programming. Yeah, so ideally, I'm going to answer it in an evasive way. I'll say, in principle, it's possible, and maybe we can look at that in a later lesson. What can be useful, I think, as Pierluigi was using a dictionary earlier, what you could do is something like this: is declare a variable like this. Like you say, I want to have a variable called columns, and I'm going to make this an object. And we say like, what would we say? We'd say like, for example, name is number 3. Oops. Sold is 1. Target is 2, and I think it was customer is 1. Is 0. So what you could do is declare it like this. Let's just check I got that about right. Yep. And then instead of doing this, you would write something like columns name. So it's slightly more code to do, but what it then does is it looks up in this object, okay, columns name is number 3. So it then pulls out number 3 from column, the column that's in position 3 in the array.
Okay,
index.
yeah, I see. I was thinking about in case, you know, somebody else adds another column into the spreadsheet and then number 3 isn't the names anymore, but then if you're, you know, calling it by the name, so checking that you are on the right column. Yeah, in this case, I mean, for this exercise, that's not really necessary.
I'll keep it simple for today, but it's a good question because I've had to deal with a problem like that with TX Academy. And I ended up using a solution like this, and it may not be the best solution, and maybe there's a more effective way to do that. So we can come back to that topic in a later lesson because it allows your code to be more flexible as people change things in the spreadsheet. Okay. All right, so we've got the target, we've got what they've sold. We check to see if the target is bigger than what they've sold. That means there's still some open sales to be made. And if it is, I get the name of the company. I calculate the difference that's still remaining, and I push it as an array into this parent array called targets. Okay, so that's the get sales target. So if I do logger.log get sales targets, let's say mark, and run the test function again. There you go. So what it's doing is it's reading through the spreadsheet, looking at all the customers where there's still something open, and returning it each time as a single array. Okay, so and a point here on this thing is what I'm saying is that when you look at these inner arrays, the thing in column A will have index 0, the thing in column B has index 1. That's also kind of what we were talking about. Okay, so I'm looking at the time. It's 4:45 already, and we got a little bit to do. What should we do? Should we do more Wheel of Fortune? I think then we're not probably going to finish in time. Or we could just keep going at this sort of pace, and if we don't finish, then we continue the lesson next time. Or I go at high speed and we get this application working. What do you guys prefer? Deep thought. All right. Okay, I tell you what, we're going to go high speed because then it feels like we got something done today, okay? All right, high speed it is. Okay, so next thing is we're going to create a function to copy the template spreadsheet into a new one and then insert the sales target. Now, a key thing here is when you have a spreadsheet in your browser, if you look carefully at the URL, you'll always have this long string. That's the ID of the spreadsheet. There are also ways to get that ID in your code, but for the sake of a quick way to find it, that's how you do that. So let me just jump over to where I have. So we got get names, get sales targets, right? So let's go jump over here so make this function quick. All right, so I'm calling this function create spreadsheet for. Let me just comment that line out. First of all, these 2 forward slashes means it's commented. It means it doesn't get executed if the function runs. Okay, and so what we're doing is we're going to open the template spreadsheet that's this one here. And you'll notice that the ID starts 1DBZ. And here in the code, it starts 1DBZ. So I'm opening that spreadsheet. Then what I'm doing is I'm creating a new spreadsheet by calling this copy function. And here I can give that spreadsheet a name. So we're going to call it sales targets for name, for the salesperson that we're doing this for. And then if we look again at the template down, the name of the sheet is called required sales. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm making sure I got the right sheet in the spreadsheet rather than calling this get active sheet. And then I loop through the sales targets that we got from this function and I insert them into that spreadsheet. Okay, and I'm going to jump forward one more slide to this one. So this is a little detail with Google Drive, is that Google Drive doesn't have the concept of moving a file, because it's possible in Google Drive that you can put files in multiple folders. So this is a little function actually that I got from here. I've shared it in the links. And what it does, I'm not going to explain it in too much detail, but it basically, you give it a folder ID that you want to move a file into, and it puts it in there and makes sure that it's not in any other folders. If you don't do this, when you copy a file like we did so when you do this spreadsheet copy, you'll find it's put it in your home folder in Google Drive, which may be a bit confusing and certainly isn't useful if you're working with a team. So that's what this function does. So I'm going to put that in the code quickly. Let's get it from over here. Okay, and that's so that's our moving function. So now let's see what we've got here. So you can see this is the Google Drive folder. There's our central spreadsheet. Here's the template. There are the slides. Okay. Now I'm going to go in here and call this. Let's just increase the font size so you can see better. I'm going to comment these two out and test my create spreadsheet for. Let's just get Mark's targets into a variable. Sorry. Okay. So here we're going to test this thing. We get Mark's sales target, and then we're going to copy a spreadsheet for him. So let's run this. And if I look over here in the Google Drive folder, in 1 second, it's still running right now. Okay, it's run. There you go. There's now a new spreadsheet in here called Sales Targets for Mark. If I open that, this is, so what it did is it copied this template spreadsheet across to here and inserted his sales targets in there. And the way I inserted, just briefly, is actually quite simple, is that I can just call this function. So here I got the required sales sheet from Mark's individual sales targets. So here we go. I got the required sales sheet from down here. And then as I was looping through the targets, I just called it append row, and I could put each row of targets directly in because I set that up earlier to match the columns, so customer and required to reach target. That matches what we were doing here. So there's the company and the remaining to be sold. So that's how we set up the targets array. Okay. So far we're able to generate a spreadsheet for one person. Kind of following me at this point? I hope. Good. All right, so now we get to a fairly, so here's, now what we're going to do is create a function that makes a spreadsheet for each salesperson. So it goes through the whole, all the salespeople using our get names function and calls that create spreadsheet for function. So we'll call this function create all spreadsheets. And for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to put it up at the top so you can see it. So what this thing is doing is it gets the list of names, of unique names for our sales guys, loops through them here, and then gets the targets for that sales guy, and then creates the spreadsheet. So if I now, I could actually just call that function directly. Let's just prove this by deleting marked sales targets. And let's run the function. It's running, and we'll probably, there, it's recreated marked sales targets. And if I reload, we've got Linda's sales targets, Hans-Peter, and there should be one more, and Sandra. So now for each of the sales guys, we've created them an individual spreadsheet with what they have remaining to achieve in this quarter. Okay. Now that part was hopefully not too intense. Now we're going to do something. So all following so far, I hope. All right, so now we're going to get to the interesting part where we add a menu to our spreadsheet. Now here we use some magic called this onOpen function. It's a special function that's called a trigger, and it gets executed whenever someone opens the spreadsheet. So if in your code you create a function called onOpen, Google will automatically run that function. And within the function, it's where I can then say, dear spreadsheet app, give me this UI utility. And using the UI utility, I create a menu called sales targets. I add an item to it, create all spreadsheets. And the second thing is the function that should get called when someone clicks on there. And then finally, I do this add to UI. Okay, so let's do that. Let me get the code. Okay. All right, so we got the onOpen function here. Now, if I go in here, oops, and we reload, what you notice is there's usually this 5 to 6 second delay before the menu appears when you first open. Okay, now it's appeared. Okay, and now we have this menu with one item on it. If let's go back into, where's my code gone? No, I lost my code. Okay, let's just reopen it from here. Sorry. sorry about that. For some reason, my hotspot started failing as well. So, yeah. Anyway, okay. So, where did we get to? So I was loading this script. Yeah. Did you see that we'd added a menu here? Oops. I need to share my screen. Okay, great. All right, so we got to the menu, and then just last but not least, okay, and so basically now what we've got, let's just demo quickly the full app. I'll again delete these 4 files. So now when we open our spreadsheet app, we see there's this new menu. We hit create all create all spreadsheets. If I look quickly at the code, so it calls this function create all spreadsheets that we made before. And now over here, it's starting to generate the spreadsheets again. And there we have a full working app. So we've added kind of a useful utility that might be something that normally you would somehow that you'd normally somehow have to do manually. Okay, we got 1 minute left. Do you want the awful part of more homework? Of course. And look. All right, so homework. I'll share this stuff. Here's just a few, nothing, hopefully not too intensive, but basically there's these steps. So first thing is, if a salesperson has reached all their targets, don't create a spreadsheet for them. Oh, Easter. Yeah, Easter free time. You don't want to have free time at Easter. You want to work on this. By the way, on the topic of Easter, yeah, I'm guessing as quite a few of us are going to be on holiday, maybe we can discuss that on Slack afterwards, who's going to be around. But I'll go through the homework and then we'll figure out when you have to deliver by anyway. All right, so the thing is this, Hans-Peter in the data, he's already hit all his sales targets. So you could skip creating the spreadsheet for him. So that's one challenge, is figure out in the code where you have to do that. Another thing you could do is add a column email to the main spreadsheet and then have a function that gets the email address for each salesperson and sends them an email with a link to the new spreadsheet that's been created. So then you've got fully automated. You generate the spreadsheets of here's your open sales targets and you mail it to them. And a little tip there in Gmail is if you put a plus after your name, you can put anything you want here. So where it says fake, you could put Mark or Hans-Peter or anything you want. So you can send the emails to yourself. Bonus points is adding the salesperson to the spreadsheet you generated as a viewer. So there's this function called spreadsheet add viewer. So what we're actually saying here is you're changing the sharing settings on the spreadsheet using code. And then there's huge bonus points if you can add a new menu item which asks for the name of a single salesperson. And if you look at this prompt dialogues business, it gives you an ability to pop up a window where you can type in some text. Okay, we lost some people along the way, but some of you guys are still there. Congratulations for making it to the end. Yeah. Any last questions, or the rest we can discuss on Slack and figure out what we want to do over Easter? Otherwise, I'm finished.
All right, good for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Harry.
Was maybe a question, was that an interesting application? Did that give you a feeling for what you can do with this?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Okay. Great. All right. Well, I'll make sure everything's shared or get the video up. and all the usual stuff, and then we can discuss on Slack when and how we're going to do things over Easter, if at all. I'm also half thinking about taking some days off, but then again, I'd just be at home anyway, so it's like it doesn't really make much difference. But yeah, all right. Well, thanks a lot, guys, and otherwise have a great Easter. Buy lots of chocolate eggs and hide them all around your flat, and then try and find them again. That's hours of fun, right? Okay. All right. Take care.
You too.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Happy hunting.
Ciao. Bye.